This is intended to be the first of another series with a different purpose than the ones I've done in the past. In the past, I was trying to point out things people didn't know or didn't understand or were using improperly because they were not properly taught. Money's a tool. And until it's used correctly, like any tool, you can't expect good results. I'm going to go to some more fundamental things in this series. And the reason for that is there are probably going to be a number of very unexpected, very nasty surprises, probably this year and maybe continuing in the next. Some of them have already started, and any one of them could really trigger some really astonishing developments. They could be negative or could be destructive, but hopefully you could be able to move quickly to protect yourselves and even to prosper when other people are suffering because they really don't understand what's happening in the world. I've told a lot of people, the reason, one of the two questions that brought me into this practice was a question I asked as a child. Why didn't anybody know the Great Depression was coming? I mean, it had to be like standing on a railroad track, the ground's rumbling, the whistle's blowing, the noise is deafening, and you don't know there's a train. Well, I was 42 when I found an answer that satisfied me, and the answer was a lot of people understood. They were screaming, this is what we're doing wrong, this is what the result has to be. One man even spent his own money 2 weeks before the crash. You can look it up. He bought a full-page ad in the New York Times explaining what was going wrong and what was going to happen, and people ignored him. Why? It was the roaring 20s. Everybody was happy with what was going on. They didn't want things to change. Some people were afraid of change. Some didn't hear. But the information was out there. And if a person is a client of mine or a friend, somebody I care about, I want to make sure you never get blindsided. The first thing is the American government. Now, all governments are alike. They're run by people. God says, I choose the basest of men to rule the countries. And he does. It's a wonder we don't have worse. But our American Constitution, our government system, was set up to give government protection to our God-given rights. They talked about the right to life, liberty, and property. Those rights are God-given. They can't be taken away, they can't be sold. They can be given away, and if we don't know what we have, the legacy we were given by our godly founding fathers, if we don't know what it was, how can we defend it? How can we understand what's right and wrong about what's happening, or even evaluate what's going to happen next? The United States of America and Israel are two similar countries in the sense that they're the only two countries I know in the history of the world that were developed and set up for the glory of God. We were blessed for well over 100 years as a result. I call the turning point 1913. When the Federal Reserve and the income tax were established. That's when the country began to turn. We still had some good years left, but the country began to turn away from God and degenerate. One of the reasons there are going to be so many nasty things, unexpected things, and I'll try and tell you ahead of time if I can identify what they'll be, but so many things are going to happen is because we're turning away from the blessings of God, and he has no option except to let us live through some of the results of the things we've done badly, some things we've done wrong. I'll paraphrase. God says, you will become rich and decide you've done by your own efforts and forget me, who is the source of all blessing. You may wonder why I'm talking about God. God has the preeminent place in every aspect of our lives, always. And we sometimes forget that. That gets us into trouble. There are some principles involved. When people establish a government, they're willing to give up some of their God-given powers and rights to the government to accomplish those given tasks for them, like organizing a protection against an invasion, like protecting against wrongdoing. Frederick Bastiat, whose book was published in 1850, a Frenchman, he died in 1849, was one of the greatest minds in the world of his time. And he basically said, you can't give to the government something you don't have yourself. God did not give us the right to steal, to lie, to cheat, to kill. We can't transfer those to the government. The government lies to us all the time, but we're not allowed to lie. The government cheats us all the time. The IRS is nothing but a criminal organization. The same thing is true with the Federal Reserve. Sadly, the Congress is probably our greatest criminal organization in American history. And the presidency along with it, I'm afraid, and the Supreme Court. We're not supposed to kill. If we murder someone, we're taken to jail. The government calls it war, protection, and murder by the millions. Still murder. There are two ways for a person to get goods and services and money. One is to peacefully produce and peacefully trade with other people on a fair and equitable basis. Our founding fathers once said that if an individual sells something, what he sells is what he thought he sold, and the price is what they agreed upon. If the buyer got what he thought he was buying and the price he agreed upon was the same, no one's cheated. That's the basis of free and open trade. There's a second way to get things, and that is to steal them. That's the way the government does. Now, some level of taxes is legitimate for legitimate purposes. We make a big mistake when we give the government, we let the government assume responsibilities or tasks that is not appropriate for the government. And we give them an unlimited budget to do so. The only way they can get money is to borrow money, to tax the money, or to create money out of the air, doing all three. And that always creates disaster, but it's destructive. When we give the government unlimited power and unlimited money to do what they're supposed to do and things they decide on their own they're supposed to do that are illegitimate, what we've done is we've handed over our sovereignty to the government. There are two expressions that really mean something to me. The first is, absolute power corrupts absolutely. That was a saying by Lord Acton. There's another parallel saying I like just as well. Power attracts corrupt people. Absolute power attracts absolute corrupt people. We put absolutely corrupt people into power and we give them unlimited money and unlimited power over our lives, and we don't even protest, we don't resist, we don't say no. And that's at our doorstep. It's something we have to change. I hope that hearing this and in the things that happen during the rest of our lives, we'll begin to stand up as men and women of integrity with God-given rights and begin to operate like adults, like responsible people, and not like children of a runaway government. One other thing, I hear the expression very often, you've been blessed with prosperity, why don't you give back? Now that's one of the lies out of hell. The more a person makes, unless it's done like the politicians or like certain criminals where the money is stolen from someone else, the more money they make, it's an indication that they are more valuable to their fellow man because they're providing goods and services that are valuable to other people. And it's right that they make good money or make fortunes in doing so. I think of the folks who made, the fellow who invented the safety match. He made an absolute fortune. Wrigley's gum, they made fortune. You could buy a pack of matches for a penny or get them free at the store with something else. They were cheap, but they were highly valuable. The point is, if a person makes a good income because he's doing worthwhile, important services for other people and is paid well, that's an indication he's contributing to the community. The people who need to pay back are the people who work for the government and their jobs are taking away the rights and the benefits of citizenship. They're just taking. That's worse, frankly, than the money that is given to people who take it as charity and lie to get it. They pretend they're disabled or they're unwilling to work. That's bad enough, but when we pay people to do things that destroy us and the economy and our freedoms, that's double bad, because the money is being stolen from us to give to people who are working to destroy us, even if they think they're doing a good job. Stay in touch in the next series of issues. We'll talk about the different aspects in the finances and other areas of our lives that affect us greatly. And until we understand them, we cannot evaluate what's happening around us, and we cannot get a good feeling for what's happening next. If I can keep you from being willfully blind to developments and make you sensitive to protecting yourselves and your families and your country in the midst of these changes, I'll have done my job, and I'll do the best I can to do so.